everyone, and welcome back to the Museum Show and Tell Show. I am here with Genevieve from Huronia
Hello.
Museum.
Hello.
Unfortunately, Jan is not in today. She might not be in for the next few episodes, but we do miss her and she'll be back hopefully soon. So for today, our theme, which Genevieve challenged the Penetanguishene Museum to, was to find an artifact that started with the letter R. So Genevieve, what do you have for us today?
Oh, it's L. It's L.
L. Yes,
Did you
I definitely have an artifact starting with a letter L. Don't worry. I just said R.
Okay.
I don't know.
Because my letter doesn't, my artifact does not start with an R. Okay, so what I brought in today starts with the letter L, and it is a letter. This letter is actually the oldest original letter in the museum's collection, and it dates to May 11th, 1882. And it was written by a fellow by the name of Samuel Anderson to his son and daughter-in-law, Thomas Gummersall Anderson and Elizabeth Anderson. And Thomas Gummersall Anderson, his family had settled in Cornwall in 1783, and that's where Samuel was living at the time that he wrote this letter. And in 1815, he was hired to work for the British military on Mackinac Island in the Indian Department as a storekeeper, an interpreter, and a clerk. And later that year, in 1815, Mackinac Island was actually ceded to the Americans. So the British garrison at Mackinac was moved to Drummond Island. So this letter, in 1882, it finds Thomas Gummersall Anderson who had been married for 2 years, and he had one son, one 10-month-old baby named William Samuel Anderson. And I chose this letter because although it is almost 200 years old, it's really interesting because it is almost not a modern letter, but it shows you just how little sometimes things can change. And you'll see what I mean in a second. So he writes, "Dear children, this evening my neighbor, Mr. McDonald, informed me that Mr. McKay had passed on his way for Drummond Island. He did not call, and I think it ungenerous in him. However, a gentleman stays this night at Mr. McDonald's that goes to Mackinac and has had the politeness to say he will take my letter and will forward it to you. Since my last in answer to Mrs. Anderson, your mother, as well as myself, have a strong desire to have you with us. We are getting infirm and require some of our children with us to take charge of it, to take charge and see to the management of the farm. And if you think the proposals I have mentioned in a former letter will answer your purpose better than the small pittance you now receive at your post, you should lose no time in coming down. I have mentioned it to George, that's another son of his, and he is anxious to have you the house is large and sufficient for us both. If you do come, you need not bring much heavy baggage, but dispose of it to the best advantage you can. Your mother sends a pair of stockings to little Samuel," and that's what little William Samuel was called, Samuel, "of her own spinning and knitting. She had another pair nearly finished for him and fears they will be too small before he gets them. Richard sends his brother Samuel Donovan a pair of gloves. Angus is constantly at school and learns fast, although he is fond of play. He never misses his task. The master says he never saw a child more apt at figures and reading, but, and I can't read this, something something something, his clothes and shoes to pieces. Your mother has been much unwell this spring, but at present is somewhat better. I enjoy as good a state of health as I can expect at my time of life, being now 83 years. Your mother, 79. I must close this letter as the gentleman must have it this evening. May God bless you. Your mother joins in love to you, Mrs. Anderson, and little Samuel, and desires his mother to kiss him for us. Your affectionate father, S. Anderson. So it's just a really sweet letter. It had nothing to do with business, nothing to do with the politics of the day, nothing to do with Thomas's job, his very respectable and very important job as the Indian agent. It was just a loving letter from one old man who was kind of concerned about his own welfare and who would take care of him as he grew older. He did live to be 101. So he still had almost, he had 18 years left of his life when this letter was written. And then just a doting grandfather writing to his recently not even 1 year old grandson. So it's really just a really sweet letter, the kind of thing that you find, being emailed by grandparents who live far away today,
Yes.
sending little bits of clothing. And yeah, it's just a really sweet letter. So
yeah, this whole kiss him for us, and like making him, clothes
little
and everything.
socks.
Oh, that's really nice.
The
Now,
200-year-old letter.
what does a letter actually look like, physically look like?
Oh, right here.
Oh, wow.
And you can see it was folded into another pieces. A number of pieces folded, and it had been sealed as well. We've got Captain Anderson, Captain T.G. Anderson, Drummond Island, by favor of Mr. Matthews. So that was Mr. Matthews was the man who carried it for Samuel Anderson while he was en route to Mackinac Island, not far from Drummond. So yeah, it's a wonderful letter.
That's
and
great.
Thank you to the descendants of TG for donating that to us.
Yes.
Yeah, we have a lot of different materials from the family, so a lot of personal effects, and it's really nice to have all that together.
Yes, for sure. Well, I think, great minds think alike. So when you said L is for letter, letter as well,
awesome.
and or a series of letters. And but time period, it's not the first letter, but these were actually letters from Aldi DeRoche, and he went by nickname Patu. And these were in the 1940s, and he was a soldier from Penetanguishene. These are letters written to his mother and family, and it's quite interesting. So the first one we have was written in 1941, June of 1941, and we have he was stationed out in Nova Scotia. And he was stationed there because, apparently there was a sighting of a German submarine over there. So they had to station there. And there's a series of letters when he was stationed there. And, certain things like, saying how everybody was so nice and the fishing was nice, but he really wanted to see some action, And I think one of the things he said was he feels a little useless and should either be at home making bullets or over there shooting them off is the statement he had. And then in November letters, he talked about how he really wanted to come home for Christmas. And then he had heard that the married men were able to come home for Christmas, and the single ones were going to be home for New Year's. So that was kind of interesting. And then there's a skip in some of the letters, and then they start in July of 1943, and now he's in England. And he's stationed there, and he talks about how it's not as war-torn as it is, as he thought it was going to be. And he says how, he says the people here are so nice. I've heard other stories from other men, but maybe I get a nice part of the country. And he talked about how they recycled everything there. They reused everything, that rationing was a big deal in England. And then I also have a letter here of finding out that his son was born back home. and that he had a daughter already, and now he was a son. And that one is from in June of 26, September 26, 1943. That was the letter that he talks about. Now he has a boy, and he's so lucky that he has a son and a daughter. And then there's other letters in October of him meeting up with his brother, who also was in the war. And, and there's even a letter we have in here of his brother who writes about meeting up with him. His name is Marcel. So we see from both sides, and they almost seem like the exact same letter sending back to their mom and dad saying, oh yeah, we met up and we saw each other. It was so nice. And unfortunately, Aldi was killed in action in May of 1944. So the last letters that we have in this collection are from November of 1943. He's still in England, and then I'm sure after that he's put to action, and then he's killed. And so this was donated by the family with all these letters, and then also some photographs. So here's a photograph of him and his sister and his sister's son.
Oh, look at that chubby.
Here's a picture of the father, Simon, with his two sons, Aldi and Marcel. And I guess Marcel went by the nickname Fat, and Aldi went by the nickname Patou. We also have this is actually the little newspaper article that talks about him being killed in action in Italy. And here's a picture of the DeRoche family.
Goodness me.
It's DeRoche family, and Aldi's at the top here. And yeah, and then I did look up just his war records just to see if I could find any more information about him, because these are letters written to his mother. So he's talking about family, and he's talking about the conditions there, but you don't hear a lot about his wife and his children, because I'm sure those are other letters that were written. But it looks like he enlisted in 1940. So he actually was working on Simcoe Gray and Simcoe Foresters at first, and then he was married in 1941, in August of 1941. And on these records, it actually shows that he did get that Christmas leave in 1941 that he talks about in those letters. He did get to go home. And then his daughter was born in September 1942. So exactly 9 months after his visit. And then that's all that we have. So it doesn't show anything else there, but we also have his death record here. But the great thing about these letters is it just gives it so much more, you just learn so much about him. I didn't even know about these war records, like they're slowly coming out about the war records. So you could find the actual information, but you would glean some information from the letters about the feelings. There's a lot of bring more, send warm socks, send cigarettes, I love you. And they're just really sweet letters. And they're also done in like different letterhead, like throughout the, I think there's 2 years of letters that we have in this collection. And also another thing, I'm being very grateful to the family to donate these to us so that we have them here. If there's any family members that ever want to look at them, we have actually. These were donated in 2004, and a couple of years ago, we did have some family members that came by that wanted to take a look at them. They heard that they had been donated here, and that's a good thing about the museum, is that we have these these letters and these artifacts that we will protect, and we glean so much information, history from them. But they're always here for the community too. They're here for everyone else, not just for us, and yeah, so that's my artifact today. But it's funny, we both went with L for letters, but
that's right.
from 2 different time periods too. So yeah, so I guess because at the beginning I did say letter R. I don't know. I wasn't even thinking that was going to be the theme for next week, but I feel like it should be. I don't know if we've done letter R. Have we? I don't think so. But
I don't know, but that sounds like a good one.
That starts with the letter R as our theme. So that will be our theme for next week. So see you then. Bye.
Okay. Bye.